Welcome to Animation Historia's Minimation. I'm your host Hunter, and with me today is Cowman.
Hi.
Hi. And this week we are doing, like I said, a Chinese ghost story.
Yeah, I really liked it. It was slow and kind of rough to start. That beginning section was very confusing.
I would say right now that this movie was based on from a series, so...
Yeah, and I'm assuming that's probably part of it. I don't know how much it ties into it, of course, but it kind of was just... I didn't know what was going on or anything like that, but once it started on and he kind of got into the second area, I'll call it the second act, that's when it really started to kind of make sense, and I really started to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. And to give a little bit of backstory from this, this was done by, or the screenplay was written by Tsui Hark, and I'm going to apologize mispronunciation. I'm a dumb American. I don't know how to pronounce Chinese names.
Yeah.
So my apologies. This was Tsui Hark did the screenplay, and he did the story for this. And it is loosely based on the ancient Chinese literary work Strange Stories from a Chinese Studio by Pu Songlin. Let me see. It was done animation was done by Film Workshop, which is a Chinese company based in Hong Kong, and Triangle Staff, that's a Japanese company. Let me see what else they have done. It was distributed in the US by Viz Video and Geneon Entertainment. And let's see, Triangle Staff did also Boogie Pop Phantom, which was really good, Macross Plus. They've done a lot of good stuff, like Serial Experiments Lane. So this company isn't just a fly-by-night. And this honestly has some really good 2D traditional animation.
Yeah, the 3D stuff was kind of rough.
Oh yeah, the 3D stuff. Besides, I want to say the robot, Way of Ways. That one looked amazing.
Yeah.
That would look awesome even to this day. That art style for that robot, if you made like a movie based on that art style, or even a series, it would look amazing. But the rest of it kind of did look janky and old. It looked about the same sort of stuff as you would see in Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9 possibly.
Yeah. It was from that era though.
Yeah, it was definitely from that era, and I would honestly say this movie would have probably been cheaper if they hadn't gone for animation.
Probably would have aged better too.
Yeah. Because probably at this time 3D animation was really expensive.
Oh yeah, for sure. I imagine, it probably was a decent budget, because it definitely had some
a lot of talent in it. But yeah, a lot of the actual voice actors were... Oh hey, I just saw this in my book. Tsui Hark, the guy who wrote the screenplay and everything.
Yeah.
You want to know what character he did?
What?
He did Solid Gold, the dog.
What? Wow.
In the Cantonese version, he did Solid Gold.
Okay.
So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And besides that, the English voice actors, we have Michael Donovan. We didn't watch the English dub. We watched the original Cantonese dub.
Which, I will say, I commented while we were watching it, but the sync felt weird. Like, it felt like it was dubbed over. Yeah, like, when you watch Japanese anime that's been dubbed in English, you know how they try and sync it up with a mouth movement, and sometimes it gets a little weird. It kind of felt like that in some parts, even though it was the original language.
I'm gonna bet probably that the reason why is partially due to the conversion from a analog video to a digital one.
That might be it.
Because if we, at the beginning, we could clearly tell that this was a VHS rip.
Oh yeah, that's true.
But besides that, everything else was really kind of great. I loved the animation. I loved the story. I loved everything about it.
It was colorful. Like, it was... I mean, that's a kind of weird thing to say, but there was a lot of variety. It wasn't monotonous. Everything was different. Every ghost, every creature, whatever you want to call it, had its own uniqueness to it, for the most part.
I want to say, though, that I don't agree with some of the voice casting on it. I don't want to specify which characters, but yeah some of the voices... I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah. It's a guy towards the end, we'll say that.
Yeah. Doesn't really fit with the design of the character, I don't think.
It really seemed like he should have had a much deeper voice, but...
It totally did. Speaking of towards the end, let's go ahead and talk about that ending. So this is going to be the spoiler part. If you want to skip ahead, go ahead and skip about 12 minutes in. Specifically 12 minutes and 38 seconds, and we will get to you there. We will be back. Now, Cowman, the one thing I really liked about the ending, I really liked, and I want to just say this right now, this movie is heavily inspired by Buddhist traditions. And it's done in a way that it's not necessarily any specific tradition. So on that, I can tell there's a lot of mixture of the traditions, including some stuff from other Vedic traditions. Vedic being the earlier tradition that Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism, all these different groups came from. And that's a whole different history that we're not going to get into. So the ending was heavily inspired by the idea of the karmatic cycle, the cycle of life and death and rebirth. However, the stuff like the reincarnation train, the gate being what it was in the show, isn't particularly in any specific Buddhist tradition.
And I think that's kind of, it was put there to kind of visualize the concept of it.
Oh, definitely. The concept is right on place, and the whole thing seems like it's done in a way that anyone, even if they're not deeply enshrined in Buddhism or in Eastern religion, would understand kind of what's going on here.
And that's kind of where I'm at. I know a little bit, but not very much, and I still totally understood everything, and it was pretty easy to keep up with it all, mainly because they repeated the names of everything a million times, but that helped. But I mean, I really liked kind of the symbolism. You mentioned the reincarnation gate, the kind of the gears. What did they have on them?
They had the different deities and other Bodhisattvas or something like that. I can't remember how to pronounce them exactly.
Yeah, so I mean that makes sense because they were the gears to open and close the gate, and so to me it kind of makes sense because as far as I know, karma's the main decider of how your reincarnation's going to go, whether you're something good or bad, basically.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
And we're probably going to be getting deep into this religious talk here because this movie, while it's heavily inspired by Chinese mythology, is also heavily inspired by Buddhist mythology. But I want to say
overlap there, to be fair.
Yeah, there is, but then again, the thing I would like to point out is that in the movie, the Buddhist monks of this show, they were kind of depicted as the antagonists.
Yeah, it was interesting because it started out with the White Cloud Boys as kind of the good guys, saving him from the initial.
Were they really there to save him? I mean, it feels like at the introduction when we saw them, they were there to only do one thing, and that was to destroy ghosts, bust ghosts.
Yeah, it was more of an accidental thing, but they made sure to keep him safe and everything. And so they're presented in a more positive light, maybe not as the good guys, but then when they introduced Redbeard, they portrayed him as kind of the antagonist, but then they flipped it around.
Yeah. One thing I would like to say is that we talked about this a little bit last week off the show, where we looked up the movie and we saw that it said there was all these different references. You remember that, Cowman?
Yes, I do, and I was specifically watching out for them, and
they did not have a single one.
Not a single one.
That whole thing on IMDb, a load of bumpkins.
So here's what I gathered. On IMDb, it says that there's a reference to Final Fantasy VI, which the closest reference I can find is the reincarnation train, which 6 had a ghost train, which was literally
not really.
I know it's the closest comparison I can find, because the ghost train had a bunch of ghosts on it. Reincarnation train had a bunch of ghosts on it. That's about as close as it gets, but it's not at all.
Yeah, but the one major one we were arguing about is the Ghostbusters one.
That one, I think, is more a literal thing, in that there are Ghostbusters, and they call them Ghostbusters.
I don't think that was a reference.
That's not a reference, no. I completely agree, but I'm saying that's where they got the idea that it's a reference from, because it literally says Ghostbusters, but...
That's probably the reason they probably went with Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Is because that's probably the closest English word that, or English vernacular that we have, compared to what it would probably be, which would be like Ghost Resters or something like that.
Or Exorcists.
Exorcists
would
work.
I think that was just a translation choice to kind of get across what they are. And
what they do instead of going into exorcism and everything, because
the movie doesn't go into that much.
Yeah.
So if they needed a phrase or word, that would instantly bring it to mind. And exorcist is more of a Catholic thing.
Definitely.
And Ghostbusters is more secular, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely a more secular term.
Like I said, none of those references were actually references.
Definitely not.
And I don't understand why they put them in there, but because it's in a lot of places. Isn't it like on the Wikipedia page as well as the IMDb?
No, I think the only place we saw that was the IMDb page. I think we were jumping around onto various IMDb pages.
Jumping around a lot, so I forgot, but
I want to know what the hell happened to that fireball, the one that wanted to get with the dog.
It's a good question.
But the thing is, I want to know why they decided fireball wanted to get with the dog. A fireball, mind you, a fireball that has eyes, a mouth, and can talk.
Yeah.
Why did it want to get with a living dog? Does it not? And when it tried to give the dog a kiss, the dog's nose got burnt.
Yeah, it smoked a bit. But, I think that, I don't know, I would say it's more of a little side joke, but it's still kind of weird. Especially since they didn't actually show what it turns into. At the end, you see he's got the little fish in his mouth, and I'm like, is that what it reincarnated to? Because that's dinner for him, It kind of sucked to reincarnate as a fish to finally reunite with your dog lover thing and be eaten by him. Like I said when we were watching the film, it turned into the sun. That honestly makes the most sense.
I shall watch over you forever. One thing I want to say is that the villain that we see, the lady that wanted to steal Ning's soul, and I'm gonna apologize again. We're gonna probably mispronounce all these names, but if they don't have like English versions, like the Buddhist monks are named White Cloud and 10 Mile and Redbeard. I don't understand why 10 Miles is called 10 Miles, but there you go.
The other two make sense.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Ning, I think that's how you pronounce his name. It's Ning.
Ning, yeah. That's how they said it.
Whatever the... I don't know why the mistress wanted... Why she wasn't a bigger threat than she was. It really feels like this movie was kind of like a prototype of Spirited Away.
Yeah.
Spirited Away coming out like, what, 2001, I think?
Something like that, yeah. I was more interested in kind of what exactly the madam was. Because he called, like, Redbeard when he first met her, or fought her, I should say, called her a trunk level 5. Which, I mean, I'm assuming that's just a really strong trunk, but what's a trunk? And she turned into it, like, when she was saying she was going to get old or whatever. She went from humanoid, I'll say, to a bunch of roots.
I would say probably that she's a spirit of a tree who became humanoid by eating souls. And she had to continue to eat souls in order to maintain the look.
Yeah. I guess, yeah, I don't know enough about the religion for that.
I don't think that's really a Buddhist thing. I think that's more something that they came up with.
I don't know.
That doesn't sound like anything in Confucianism, Taoism, or Buddhism. So I'm just gonna say that it sounds made up. Like a lot of the stuff they probably did make up. Like the main character, what was her name again? Shine. What was her deal? What type of spirit was she? She wasn't a vampire, clearly, because or Chinese vampire. I forget their names, but because she didn't hop around, she wasn't blue, and she didn't have, and she really didn't eat souls. She stole souls, but that was to give to her mistress.
Yeah.
I don't think they really put a lot of attention into the types of ghosts. I think they more were trying to put a lot of focus on the characters.
Yeah, and I'm looking at... I tried to look it up, and I'm not seeing anything that's even close to related. And so it's weird. I don't know what they're supposed to be.
I don't know either. Welcome back to the non-spoiler section. We were just talking about how Cowman burned himself really stupidly with his Pokemon Go game.
Yes. When you have it in your pocket, be sure to face the screen away from your thigh, especially if you're charging it. Because if you have it on an iPhone, it gets very hot.
It really does. Anyways, so going back to this film, I want to say that this film actually got some pretty good awards. It got the 1997 Golden Horse Film Festival Award for Best Animated Feature, and that is a Chinese-based one, or based in Taiwan, rather. The Asia Pacific Film Festival in 1998, it won the Best Animated Film. And in 1998, it also won the Film of Merit Award in the Hong Kong Film Critics Society Awards. So it does have a little bit of prestige behind it. Variety actually is one of the few places that I saw that actually reviewed it. Derek Ellie from 1997, he went on to write, in the thinly populated film of offshore Chinese animation, Chinese Ghost Story is a considerable accomplishment, the result of 4 years' work by Tsui Hark's Hong Kong-based film workshop. And the thing is that this has a lot of Chinese influence on it. Whereas Spirited Away, you could obviously see a lot of the Japanese, like, mythology, the Japanese beliefs in there. and the styles and everything from a more medieval Japan. This definitely has more of a medieval China feel to it. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. I totally agree with that. I don't know that much about medieval China, to be honest, but it really felt.
It doesn't feel like it takes place in the modern day.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It doesn't. It feels like old. I mean, it feels like it's in the old era, the medieval ages.
Yeah, it doesn't feel old enough to be in the prehistoric era, and it doesn't feel too new enough to be in the modern era.
Yeah.
So the only place this really feels comfortable in is that it feels like a medieval period piece. And that kind of makes sense considering that it's based on an ancient piece of work. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, and all the technology in it was technology of that era. And they
Bill, besides the ghost shit, but ghost shit.
But
I mean, they had a Ferris wheel, and they had trains.
It's like magic.
Yeah, I know. I was just like, ghost stuff.
Yeah.
But that's ghost stuff.
It transcends time, I guess.
It's anachronistic.
Yeah.
But I would say my favorite character has to be the dog.
That dog was pretty good. It grew on me.
I didn't really like Ming because he seemed to just take the whole, oh, this ghost really likes me thing without any sort of care.
Yeah, he moved pretty quickly.
He just wanted to be with that ghost, I guess.
I guess.
She's the ghost with the most.
I'm still confused as to why he went through all that, but...
because he loved the ghost.
Yeah, it kind of was a little rushed in that respect. But that also might be because it was part of a series, and so that might be some backstory that we don't know about.
Yeah. I'm just going to say there's probably like 3 or 4 of these movies.
Something like that, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm just looking it up right now. There's a Chinese ghost story from 1987, and then 1997 came the animated film. And then there was 3 or 4 Chinese ghost stories. So, yeah, there's a lot to go through on these. And I'm betting what this probably is a combination of all 3.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, looking at it, it definitely feels like it's a combination of all 3 movies cut down. So, yeah, it does feel a little bit rushed. But then again, whatever.
I mean, it felt rushed, but it didn't feel bad. Like, there was some motivation stuff that I was just kind of like, well, what's going on here? Then I just kind of wrote it off, basically. I just didn't worry about it too much.
Yeah, it's a good popcorn flick, I would say. It's not going to be as emotionally invested as the previous one we did, Princess.
Yeah, well, yeah. This one's more of a kid's film.
Oh, it definitely is more of a kid's film. I would 100% agree. The dog is amazingly fun, especially when it decides to just morph its body around.
Yeah, that dog's like, it takes full of, it kind of reminds me of the old was it Tex Murphy?
Yeah,
that kind of humor.
Yeah, it definitely knew it was a cartoon.
Yeah, it's obviously not exactly the same, but it was that kind of almost fourth wall breaking, but not really. That kind of weird humor is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. If it was in real life, that would be considered body horror.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Cronenberg would be having a field day with it.
Imagine Cronenberg doing a Chinese ghost story 4. It would either be amazing or it would be horrifying.
Or both.
Yeah. That is true. It could be both. So, Catman, are you ready to know what we're going to do next time?
Yes, I am.
It's going to be The Haunted World of El Super Beasto.
Oh, we're actually gonna watch that? Oh god.
Yes.
I never like. All I know is it's by what is it, Rob Zombie? And...
Yeah. He's just the producer.
Oh, he's the producer. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's not as bad because producers don't do much.
Yeah. Let me take a look at.
He's not terrible. He's done a few good films, but
Yeah.
like, he's not consistent enough for me to be excited. It will probably be pretty.
It looks like
it.
it looks like it's kind of great.
Okay.
No,
may
not
be
great.
pretty
It's
messed
not
up, too.
not great, but Hark. You know the band that did the Pie song with the rap in it, Hard and Firm.
Yeah.
Hey, they did music for this.
Oh.
Let's see. Tom Papa, Sherry Moon, Zombie, Sherry Moon Zombie, Rosario Dawson, Brian Posum, and Paul Giamatti. Giamatti, sorry. I'm looking at a text that's like really badly JPEG, so you have to accept my apology there. Let's see. And it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. Its reception on Rotten Tomatoes, 48%. We're going to have a good time next time.
Oh boy.
I'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.